That's
Graduation,
Yes.
four-year graduation rate.
awesome. No problem. Focus school criteria.
Are you saying that was correct? Excuse me.
No.
That something was off?
Yeah, we have a higher graduation rate than that.
What's our current graduation?
Current 80.
I was gonna say that was 80%.
But it's
Okay.
the point, it's not.
Okay, well, we will definitely double check that.
Absolutely. Focus school criteria. Schools with subgroups performing at or below the performance of priority schools, or schools subgroups performing in the bottom 30%, and school subgroups had a low performance on gap closing components. Painesville has a few focus schools, Harvey High School, and their subgroups, all students, Black, ED, which is economically disadvantaged, EL, which is English learner, multiracial, Hispanic, white, and students with disabilities. Chestnut Elementary School, subgroups, all students, Black, ED, multiracial, Hispanic, white, and students with disabilities. And Elm Elementary School, subgroups, all students, Black, ED, multiracial, Hispanic, and white. Watch school criteria. Identified schools failed to show satisfactory achievement and progress for 4 specific subgroups of students. Painesville has 4 watch schools. Harvey High School, subgroups, economically disadvantaged and English learner. Chestnut Elementary School, subgroup, economically disadvantaged and gifted. Maple and Elm Elementary School, subgroups, gifted. Because of this criteria, the state has identified Painesville as a watch district based off the amount of economically disadvantaged students. District support. Painesville and other districts such as Painesville are eligible to apply for the SQIG funds. That's the School Quality Improvement Grant. Those are the old 1003 SIG dollars, and these funds are specific to districts who have focused priority schools. Awards should be coming out at the end of this month. State support team. Targeted support for gap closing initiatives. And this is just a nice graph showing how all the state support's supposed to work. And at the top you see Ohio Department of Education. You see our 16 regional state support staff, external facilitators, internal facilitators, district teams, building teams, and teacher teams. You see the arrows going down and up, and this is the flow of communication. We call this Ohio improvement process, and information should be flowing up and down. The most important areas would be the district leadership teams, the building leadership teams, and our teacher-based teams. There's certain information that should be discussed in teacher-based teams in regards to student data. There should be an overlap in the building leadership team where representatives from the teacher-based team should be there and exchange of information. And then you should have representation as well at the district leadership team. Now, every district is working on this. It looks different in different places. It's not easy with the different factors that go on within school districts and what's going on with the state. But this is just an example, typically, that maybe the community may not understand of how information should flow with the Ohio improvement process. And at this time, I'll bring Clary back up to just explain our district review process.
Ask them if they have any questions.
Oh, do you have any questions?
Just a question about that graduation rate, right? Get it right. All right, and we will. So the district review will actually take place May 6th through the 10th on site here. And the question often is, did I go the wrong way? I think I did. Okay. The question often is, as we now look at the overview of the district review, on-site review, and district review report, is why are external reviewers coming to your district? And the answer is to give support. We're here to give support. We actually do district reviews in the academic distress commission districts, and in those cases, we're trying to help them to improve so they no longer have to have an academic distress commission. And for all others who are moderate or intensive support school districts, which was explained on that differentiated accountability chart, we are trying to help you prevent having an academic distress commission. We're trying to be proactive and preventive. So the question also is, who actually makes up the district review? And we will share generally that, I'll share a little bit about that later, but ultimately knowing that it's practitioners who are contractors, not ODE employees, seeing things through the lens of ODE, which we'll share a little bit more about that. The process itself, we're looking at observable behaviors and practices. So we just want to stress it is not a gotcha. We truly mean it's a support. It's not like the Office of Exceptional Children from ODE that says, okay, you missed the mark with your special ed and here's a corrective action plan. It's not like that at all. And your funds are not going to be held if you don't do X, Y, and Z. We are totally here in support, and we're looking at systemic and systems. So no one individual could say the wrong thing, because it didn't take one individual to help your district to get where it is, and it's not going to take one individual to get you out. It's going to be a collective initiative where everyone must work together to improve your district. Okay, as explained earlier with the improvement process, it's aligned, and when I showed you the strategic plan, everything we do in the district review is aligned with the focus areas of the Ohio Department of Education based on research practices used in effective districts. So there are 6 standards and 24 indicators that we will base all of the review on. And for example, in leadership and governance, we'll look at the communication between the board and the leadership, district leadership, and effective district systems for school supports and intervention. Those are a couple of things that will be looked at more closely under leadership and governance. Under curriculum and instruction, we'll look at strong instructional leadership and effective instruction, for example, as well as tiered instruction and sufficient instructional time. How is it instructional time in the district? Under assessment and use of data, we'll look at data collection and dissemination. How is data shared? Data-driven decision making. Does data drive the decision? And does data actually drive instruction in your district? Under human resources and professional development, for example, the contractors will look at staff recruitment, educator growth and evaluation, and professional learning. What kind of professional learning is actually going on in the district? Under student supports, academic and non-academic support will be reviewed, and family, community, and partner engagements will also be looked at. And under fiscal management, looking at the money. Comprehensive and transparent budget processes. That's what they'll be looking at, as well as a few other things to include financial tracking, forecasting, controls, and audits. And you notice how the circles are interlocking. I'll speak to that a little bit later, but information will be shared and triangulated between each of the areas, which I'll explain a little bit further. Any questions about just the standards and the areas? It pretty much encompasses everything that goes on that's significant in the district. So with the improvement process, the district review does include that which Mr. White spoke to. And I already addressed the fact that the district review team members are actually current or recent practitioners who will be working in the areas that they themselves worked in with proven success in the districts they were in.
Are the districts that are coming from similarly situated to
And-
the districts they're reviewing, or?
A mixture, because as I'll speak to later, the types of supports we try to provide for networking will include districts who are may not look the same and may have some different dynamics and typologies. However, for example, when it comes to curriculum, regardless of what your area is and what your regional or geographical area is, something can be learned from others as well as with our reviewers. So
Sure.
there's a mixture, many from the urban, many from suburban urban as well, and from rural. We do have a mix, but they are practitioners with some proven success. And through our processes, have now worked with our urban districts to see effective practices that can be useful. And that usually often helps come from OBE because in the past, there have been people who have learned recommendations and never were actually in the district. So we're trying to be purposeful and at least having those who walk the walk, and so they can basically talk the talk a little bit better. So expectations of the district. So we asked for open access to buildings. The district has already provided copious documents, which we greatly appreciated. They've been very hospitable, even in advance of all that has been asked and requested. A meeting space, documents by request, even in addition to what we've already asked, access to internet and the copier. And when it comes to the teacher, I also want to say, again, it's not a gotcha. We're wanting to gain qualitative as well as quantitative information. Society as a whole sees a quantitative report card, and that's all they see. We want to get your story and, want to be able to share what you have to share.
If you find that either a teacher or a building or the district in general is not giving you the support that you request, what happens then?
We communicate with the superintendent. And it just has not been an issue up to this point.
Sure.
I'm
not expecting it, I'm just curious.
Yes, this is the beginning of starting a rapport with the leadership here that we hope will be ongoing with the expectation that you're going to do better, improve, but it's the beginning of a relationship that we can be forthcoming so that we can give support. And hopefully, as other districts have been able to see that we truly are supporting and not just compliance.
Sure.
So, we say conduct business as usual. The superintendent already informed me, the district is so used to so many people coming in, so maybe they'll just be accustomed to hear just another face coming in and out. And we want to be able to see a normal day. There again, so that we can provide appropriate support. So when contractors go into the classrooms, it will not be for more than 20 or 30 minutes. And it is a snapshot in time. Even us coming for 1 week, it's a snapshot in time. And we understand that. But for that time, we'll be able to make an observation. But everyone will be able to keep in context that it's just 1 week. And we know that there probably will be things we won't see. But but we will hear what everyone has to say, and I'll speak to that in a moment as far as, you know, triangulating the information based on what we hear, what we see, and what is actually told to us. Yes.
These classroom observations, are these in all the schools in the district or
Yes.
just those focused in large schools?
All the schools, and we want to stress that it's not evaluative, if I haven't said that already. It's not an evaluation. And it is, we do want a cross-section. Of course, it won't be every classroom in every school, but we will get into every building. Teachers will be asked to participate in individual or group interviews. Along with that, we'll be having a discussion both with the board and community members, and try to have a cross-section of stakeholders throughout the district. So a place for the reviewer to sit, a lesson plan may be requested, and but never will a teacher be stopped in the middle of the lesson and to share anything. We'll wait to make sure there's a natural break to ask any questions if there are any. And then, you know, there may be questions to a student on the side, and a request for their data books as well. So looking at the process, I already shared with you that many documents are requested, and it gives a chance for the reviewers to see the district on paper. And some of the documents that are asked for might be the organizational chart, Board of Education minutes for the year, curriculum tools, descriptions of student support programs, and a myriad of documents there again to see the picture of the district on paper. During the on-site review, Monday through Wednesday, primarily, there'll be the interviews for the discussions, because we don't want you to feel like you're being interrogated, so I'm trying to avoid saying interviews, but the discussions with you, the board, as I already said, different stakeholders, community members, parents, as well as students. Well, that takes place generally Monday through Wednesday, and then Wednesday through and Thursday, there will be the classroom observations and in the building. We will also have certain staff that all 4 days will be in the buildings, but the main 6 who do the review will primarily go and also do classroom and building observations on Wednesday and Thursday. So on Thursday, the team collaborates with each other about and triangulates information throughout the whole time. And they'll come together and have emerging themes that will be shared with the superintendent first on Friday, and then with whoever the superintendent chooses of the leadership team on Friday. A few of the strengths, not from each area the way it will be in the report, but just 2 or 3 strengths out of the whole, out of all the different 6 standards, and a few of the challenges will be shared as well, to give an indication of what can be expected, what will be included in the actual report. So after the district review, is the on-site review, then the district report will actually be pulled together by the team, which they'll identify findings, strengths and challenges, and then they'll identify recommendations. The whole time, there will be a triangulation that each contractor will have about his or her own information. What did they hear? What did they read? What did they see? And then there'll be triangulation, as already mentioned, with each other. As, for example, the leadership contractor may have seen some information that he or she will touch bases with the fiscal person and say, well, the superintendent said this, were you able to find the same thing when you went through your information? So there's constant triangulation of information.
When you use the word contractor, I assume you mean that all of these reviewers are kind of independent people
Correct.
that are hired
Correct,
for this particular purpose.
correct. They are not ODE employees.
Okay.
They are practitioners, former or current practitioners that are contracted to work for ODE for this particular purpose of doing the review.
At some point, I don't want to totally derail your presentation, but at some point, will you talk about the process you use to hire or to select those contractors?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
So I can share now. So there is a state system of contractors for various areas, and there's an online process that people may apply. And they apply, and we're able to pull their resumes and see what their background is. And we interview them to see if they're fitting and if their background actually matches what's required. A lot of people have great background, but it's another thing when it comes to technical writing, and especially those who have been accustomed to having someone take all their notes for them all the time. Sometimes, especially with the leadership component, it's often superintendents who aren't used to sitting down and doing a lot of copious writing. So, but that is generally the process that's followed. And then the teams, in the beginning, we were trying to make sure the teams were different for the different district reviews, so we wouldn't have groupthink. But when we went to Youngstown, for example, they were happy that some of the same people had been there before because they were able to see the continuum. So one thing I can say is, as we have our new Ohio strategic plan, it charges us to revisit all of our processes on our end, just as we're asking the district to look at its systems and systemic practices. We're being charged to do the same thing so that we can refine and do better as well. But to your point, this is the way we bring people on.
Dr. Huff Franklin, can you speak a little bit to the accountability of these people, their experience having done this before, and whether they've been successful?
Successful prior to coming to us, or
Yeah.
with our reviews
Or
themselves?
with the reviews, I suppose, themselves. I mean, these are people that we're trusting to make recommendations about the next steps forward. Have they been successful in the past? And what, if we follow their, of course, we intend to follow their recommendations if they move forward, but if they're not successful, what's the accountability on their part?
And that is a good question. And I'll parcel it in two ways. So, and it speaks to the process of the report itself, and which is why we're able to call this an Ohio Department of Education review. So we have the contractors come as reviewers, and based on their data gathered, they come up with the recommendations. But the process does not end there. It's a series of going through ODE offices who also lend expertise as to experiences understood with districts that we're working with on different fronts, to also offer suggestions and make sure we're all speaking the same language. So it's not resting solely on the recommendation of the contractor, you know, him or her, what they have initially by itself. It's a collaborative response. Now, to the success before they come, well, that's a part of my role of evaluating and making sure we have someone who has the best fit. But ultimately, we're using a rubric that goes beyond subjectivities to eliminate subjectivity and get to the objectivity of it. When it comes to the recommendations, I'll speak to how we're working with the district, how we will be working with the district to include that in their improvement plan in a way that it's a living document, and we will be discussing how it fits best and how it can be accomplished best, knowing that one shoe does not fit all. So I'll speak to that at the end as far as the next steps and what's expected of the district with the recommendations, so that I think it will become a little clearer that if she is a contractor and makes a recommendation, if it's not totally in the purview of what's going to fit best for the district, we'll be working with those elements to make it so that it is a better fit. Because ultimately, it's the challenge that's most important, in the district sharing, okay, how are we going to move forward to accomplish that challenge? And I'll also speak on how we're not going to expect everything to be done in 1 year. It would be a year to a 3-year plan that we'll expect the district to work towards. And if you're okay with that explanation up to this point, I'll share a little bit more about that at the end.
That'll be fair enough, thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Franklin, when you talk about best fit, so will practitioners who have had experience at the elementary level be placed in an elementary school?
Generally, yes.
Okay.
Yes, when it comes to the observations, but yes.
And you will have people that have worked in systems that are economically disadvantaged that will be working with us?
Correct.
Not, okay.
And a mixture, as again, and since we triangulate, we're able to hear best practices across the board
Okay.
as they triangulate with each other. But there again, for example, when it comes to curriculum, curriculum is curriculum, regardless of your social economic. Where you get into possible geographical specifics, you know, student supports, because the students might look a little bit different and the background might be a little bit different. But for the most part, most other areas, success is success. And, but we will work through that with the district to figure out how do we get to that better place. Okay, does that help? I'm sure Mr. White will agree that this board is more intuitive than many of ours, you know, so hats off to all of you for at least asking questions. It shows you have a great interest in your district, and kudos to you. So after the on-site review, findings are based on evidence, so regardless of what someone's background is coming to the table, you know, that's why we ask for so much data, to try to take the subjectivity out of it. Then the report that comes out is going to show strengths that the district can build on, because of course you're doing something well, you're doing something right. And often the society at large doesn't get to see those things that are right, they just see the report card. However, we will share challenges in areas for growth. That's one of the main reasons we're here, so that collectively we can find some solutions. Though we have recommendations, collectively working towards finding solutions which are suggested in the recommendations. So did you have a question? Go ahead.
When you're talking about, you know, evidence-based, data-driven, in the report, what is the report going to look like to us? Now, not to what the superintendent is giving necessarily, but what's going to be given to the district general, to the board, or whoever? I mean, is it going to be just kind of a bullet point here, do this, do this, do this, or is it there going to be data backing up?
Yes.
Here's our finding, here's what we use to establish that finding, and here's our recommendation from that.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was thinking I had my computer, I was going to go over to our website. So if you go to the Ohio Department of Education website and just plug in district reviews, it will take you to a page that shows all the reviews we have done, or you can put the title of a review if you want a city in particular. Recently, last year we did, I don't know, Maple Heights is one we done. Anyway, if you just go to district review and it will list And you can see the format there. I think what I'm going to make sure to add to our presentations will be me clicking on the site so you can see how the report will be. But basically, you'll have an executive summary that will be bulleted to say, here are all the strengths, here are all the challenges, and here's the recommendations. And when you go in, for each standard, leadership, curriculum, and instruction, for each one, all 6 of them, there'll be strengths for all of the 6 standards. Then with the evidence to support why we say that's a strength, and if those things continue for your district, what's the impact on your district, what the impact will be on your district if you continue with these things that are a strength for you. And then the second part, the next part will be the challenges or areas for growth for all 6 areas, as well as what's the impact if you continue with those things, and then the recommendations. And if those recommendations are applied, what are the potential benefits? At the beginning of the report as well is a narrative about your report card data. So the charts will be at the end, and many of us see the report card, all of us see the report card. You may not be aware that there's so many different parts and pieces to the report card that speaks to your district. But it's another thing to really understand what those charts are saying. So you'll have a narrative to explain what those charts mean for your district with your data. So that's, the schedule will be in the report as well.
Great, thank you.
So the report, when it's completed, should assist leadership to prioritize data using the decision framework, which Mr. White spoke to, and then decision-making information in alignment of budget priorities should occur. The report should assist leadership to implement and monitor what district's focus plan is. It will highlight items to monitor at the building and district level, and will integrate recommendations into the Ohio Improvement Plan. District leadership team should monitor, will monthly monitor and measure the implementation. So, these are the various offices that directly support the district from this point on, but it's our office, which is the Office of Intensive Support. It is our role to connect from this point on your district to whatever potential supports that ODE can give. Something I was going to say when we were speaking of the report, and the next steps is what I'd like to share with you. Basically, from this point on, in about 6 months after the report comes, we will share, facilitated by the superintendent, what the progress is of the district since from the time of the report. And then, as I said, from this point on, it's a connection of trying to provide continuous support to the district. We have network groups that we'll be connecting the district with as well. So with that, I will pause and see if there are any other questions.
So I'm still not exactly clear on the articulation between the district review and the building reviews. Okay, so you've got the building on-site reviews going,
Yes.
you've got 3 buildings going on at the same time.
Yes.
So do those building reviews feed into the district review?
Yes.
So that becomes a piece of the district review?
Correct. It will inform the district review. And they actually will inform each other, when it comes to those specific buildings. But yes, and I apologize for not mentioning that. It is a part of our attempt at ODE to better streamline and collaborate within the offices within Ohio Department of Education, that we will be bringing the state support team in at the same time as our district review team. And prior to now, there have been 2 separate visits. And the documentation that came from School Improvement Diagnostic Review was just given to the review team. At this time, they'll be taking place and involved in the district at the same time. So that triangulation I spoke to you about between, each individual with their documents and then with other individuals will include the School Improvement Diagnostic team as well. So yes, they will inform each other. We're trying to also make sure the documentation is not duplicated, which, we've had a little key there. We want to make sure that's solved. But that should also be an issue, that there's not duplication with requests of documents. Once it's loaded for one, it should. Our system is designed to be that way anyway, but we're trying to make it as smooth as possible. And, the lessons learned from our review now will inform how we move forward with other districts as well.
I have a question. I'm looking at Maple Heights, something that you did last year, and I happened to stop on the student support issue.
Okay.
And it addresses the student chronic absenteeism. And the suggestion is to organize a team of principals and parents and teachers and students to come up with solutions after they decide what the root cause of all this is. Well, those of us who are in school districts like ours know that one of the root causes has to do with economics, and there's not always a solution to deal with those. And even though curriculum is curriculum,
Yes.
we know that how a student comes to school each day has a great effect on their success with that curriculum. And I guess I'm just a bit concerned because I know our teachers work very hard, as do our administrators. They want our students to be very successful. They want them to come to school and come to school prepared. We feed them breakfast, we feed them lunch, we do everything we can, and yet we still get this grade on a state report card that's also measuring us with the Beechwoods and the Oranges
Right.
and,
Right.
districts that are
Apples
just so
to
far
oranges.
from us
Right.
when, can you see in the future any more, what do I want to say, a way to measure schools more equitably in this, if we have to do the report card, and it doesn't look like it's going away, is there a more equitable way that we could do these things, noting that some of these issues that you're going to find just can't be solved with a group of professionals coming in and giving us, many of these things we know.
Right, it's
are
not a quick
wrong.
fix, there's no
There's-
silver bullet,
right.
for sure.
Yeah.
If I can, I did, you said, is there a way, and you mentioned Maple Heights, and one thing
Right,
is
absenteeism.
absenteeism. I don't know if we want to speak to the higher ground. One thing Tariq will share would be, that you're going to speak about higher proving ground, what they had done.
And
So
so
it's
it's jump ahead of my.
That's okay. So, speaking to the network groups
Mhm.
and the different types of supports we're trying to incubate to help districts, Maple Heights in particular has become a partner with Proving Ground, right? That actually helps to deal with chronic absenteeism. So the thing is, no, there's no silver bullet. However, there are entities that are finding solutions somewhere in our country with our kids 2 and 3 and 4 times larger that we're trying to tap in to figure out, well, what are they doing? Somebody's getting it. And even someone's getting it in our state. We just don't always give recognition where it's do, because they have so many other problems, you can't always see that, but they are getting this aspect right. So to that point, just let you know, that's one way of trying to help districts connect with others who are finding solutions. Another thing on the report card is value added. That measure was brought in for the sake of, yes, you have challenges, yes, we have, destitute populations. Can we get credit for showing growth? So there's credit for growth whether they pass the test or not. So that is one way of trying to help with equity. It still can be argued what's fair and what's not fair. That is beyond our jurisdiction. However, it is our role to help provide that support. And one thing I didn't mention, I alluded to earlier, is the alignment. So after the report is completed and we share it, we'll come back to you when the report is done. We'll ask the district to make a crosswalk of all the initiatives, what's the plan that's inside for federal programming, and we will ask the district to do a year to a 3-year plan, more of a working document of how are you accomplishing your improvement plan. And so it will include the recommendations, but depending on what's unique for your district, it can be tweaked. Like I said in the beginning, it's not like the Office of Exceptional Children with the corrective plan or fiscal emergency where you must do this and then there are recommendations. The word recommendation is purposeful. It's not, they're not mandates. There are recommendations based on best practices, and we will work with the district to try to help the district to reach those goals. No magic bullet, but it behooves us to come and try to give support however we can. But it's going to be collective support. It's not ODE selling, and the contractors are outsiders coming in. They're giving a snapshot view. It just gives us a baseline to start, because we rarely have a district to refute these are challenges. Now, how we get to solving those challenges, it is, there is some wiggle room to figure out how we go about it. I mean, what's in writing might have to be tweaked, especially since we're talking about 1 to 3 years. By the second year, so much might change that it might have to change direction. And it's not the purpose of the report to dictate. It's a baseline to get, and it helps to have some recommendations to start with versus saying, okay, here's your problem. Okay, in most cases, you already know what the problems are, but here are some recommendations that have proven to help districts. And we work together to figure out how we can solve it. So after the report comes out, 6 months later, the district is going to be able to speak to what they've already accomplished and what's the plan for moving forward in general. And after that point, we will pretty much, at ODE, continue to talk to the district leadership from that point on, unless we have a special request from you all. And one of the special requests often is for our accountability to explain that report card a little bit better. So, as requests come up even between now and before the report is done and after the report, any requests you have, you give to the superintendent, and he will let us know, and we'll try to find whoever's appropriate to share with you. So, from this point on, we avail ourselves to you to give support however we can.
Thank you.
One quick, hopefully, question back, kind of a triangulation idea you were talking about.
Yes.
You were saying that the viewers will be given the diagnostic report.
Information is, since it's simultaneous, as they are gathering information, they'll share and triangulate. Prior to now, we would have had a report from what they had done before, and it would have informed our information.
Right. But they're given the diagnostic report prior to their time during the review. Is that, am I
No.
understanding that correct?
No,
No.
when we're walking in the district, in the
Uh-huh.
buildings, they're walking in the district, in the buildings too.
Okay.
So we are
but-
simultaneously,
Okay.
but the SI, school improvement diagnostic review, how many days? They're 3 days and we're 5.
Okay.
So for the time they are there, we'll collaborate over information. But they're more focused on their build, those specific buildings.
My question, I was understanding the diagnostic review was already done, given to them prior to their review, and I was concerned about that shaping their view prior, to come in with an idea of what's already going on. And, might cloud the judgment, but if they're happening concurrently, then.
But again, it's triangulation of information because that. is
Sure,
looking
after the
at
fact, then
Five-year
it's-
forecast, looking at everything.
Absolutely.
But I believe there was a school improvement diagnostic review 4 years ago? So years back.
I think it was 6.
Yeah, so it's been a little while,
It was
but there,
2013.
and often when we go into a district, it's not simultaneous, so it will inform to say, well, in 2016, we had this going on. How's it looking today? How does it compare,
Sure.
depending on, and of course, there are 24 different indicators under those 6 standards. Every single one of them will not be hit, but they'll be looking for the red flags, that stand out the most, and the celebrations that stand out, as well as when it comes to the recommendations, some low-hanging fruit that they can go ahead and approach as well. But other things will be more of a long-term. When you're talking about systems and systemic practices, it's just not an overnight thing. And so the recommendations will speak to both some low-hanging fruit things as well as long-term things, which is the decision the superintendent and his leadership team will have to make. What will be the things that are going to be attacked in year 1 versus year 2 versus year 3.
So the district review will be early May, and we will get the results back, I think we were told before, maybe in August? Does that sound about right?
May, they're to the review.
That's only 2 weeks before school's out.
About June, July, yes. It will probably be at least a couple of months that you'll actually get the report.
But I'll have prelim information.
Yes, the
so
superintendent
we're
will get
building
it
our improvement
beforehand.
plan for that.
Right.
But
Of course,
I'll
you
have
can-
something to go with.
Correct. Yes, yes, yes.
So it won't be until February then when you would be back to start checking on the progress, 6
Correct.
months after we.
As far as a formal sharing out with you all,
Okay.
but we'll be communicating
Right.
throughout.
Okay.
State support team, which there she is, yay, hello. I appreciate having state support team, which is an arm of Ohio Department of Education. Thank you so much for coming. They are already in the district every month at the district leadership team. And after the district review, Mr. White will also visit with the district, in the district leadership team as well periodically. So they've always been here. You could say ODE's always been here. We're going to continue to be here after this point for support. And so I think your original question, what was your question?
About when we would get the report.
Oh,
You
okay,
said
so,
probably
okay,
August.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
May, June, July, August. But like I said, the superintendent will get a preliminary writing to make tech edits and, to discuss whatever parts and pieces he deems is appropriate. And so, all along the way, as I explained, ODE offices will be reviewing it. There may be questions that causes it to be delayed as questions are asked, and then when the superintendent gets it, there may be questions that will prolong it. So all the different factors included will determine how soon it can come.
Okay.
I'll have like some nuts and bolts technical questions.
Okay.
I'll just set up a call.
Yes, definitely. Anytime, just a phone call or a text away from now on. So, here for you. Carter? Yes.
Frank, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. But I wondered if you could speak to the impact of the work that ODE is doing in this area. And as we look at these reports, can you tell me a little bit about outcomes for these school districts? help you can give us, we want that help. But at the same time, we know we face some daunting challenges. I think as you look at these school districts, I'm sure they all have their unique problems.
Yes.
And we certainly face our own unique challenges here in this district with our population. So can you speak a little bit to your success and what we should anticipate in terms of the, I hear you that you're giving us support, but what's your track record of success?
That's a good question. And for a formal report about outcomes, we do have a newly formed research office at ODE that is working on having such a thing, because I think without fail, every board has asked that. So we're trying to provide documentation to say, we went into these districts and this is where they were, and 5 years later, here they are, or 2 years, whatever. But, we do have evidence that every review that we have done, those districts were generally the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 out of the 610 districts in the state of Ohio. And out of all of them, Youngstown and Lorraine, we reviewed, they were in academic distress before my office was created. My office was created to give support to initially just academic distress commissions. And then we thought of, well, let's be proactive and be preventive. So besides Youngstown and Lorraine, out of all the districts we have reviewed, which now have been about 15, it's only one that's actually gone into academic distress commission, which is East Cleveland. And others have avoided it, such as Maple Heights. Well, all of the others have avoided it, but there were 3 that actually were in the same position as you with their overall greater than F that did manage to avoid that. Now, of course, we're not taking all credit for it, even though it'd be nice to take credit for it, but just like the report card, you can't point to just one thing that leads to both the success or whatever. But it does speak to what did the districts who managed to avoid do. And those who did manage to avoid, I think we can agree, they embraced the process. And they rallied around collaboration and school improvement with a sense of true urgency that has made the difference. And I think we can safely say that's been the outcome. And as I said up to this point, though we don't want any district going into academic distress commission, out of 15 districts, only 1 has. So that's like an informal, but we are working on, formal documentation to show what's been the difference with the districts that we've worked with up to this point.
That's really helpful, and thank you. I guess, and I have one other question that maybe you can just answer as a background and to satisfy my curiosity. Of school districts that are in our predicament, can you tell me, are the majority, or if not all of those districts similarly situated in terms of their economic challenges and racial minority challenges that we face? Because, my family made the choice to remain in this district, and we had choices. Not everybody in this district did. And I watched families around me in my community choose to leave this district because the district received poor scores on their report card, which increased our challenges. So it tends to be a cycle, if that makes sense.
Right, understandable. It could be argued that, and I'm not here to defend any legislation, but often we will go into a district and they'll say, you're doing a district review because we're low, but the report card came out before we did the district review. I mean, the evidence was there. Often it's just not communicated to the community at all, at large, for them to understand, well, the district is in more dire straits than maybe many had thought. But it is the dilemma that it becomes a cycle. You're trying to get better, but others, so many people leave, and that makes it a struggle. To answer your initial question, yes, other districts are in the same predicament. And it is the reality. But we have to just look at solutions. We try to help the district to look at solutions. So your first question was, are the other districts that we did reviews in, are they similar? I would say all of them have been urbans. One of our network groups that became an outgrowth was mid-sized urban districts that come together to do a collaboration. For the first time ever, we're going to be going to a rural district. It'll be what that we already just did, Ashtabula. All the others have been urban. Well, Lima, you feel like they're rural, but they're like rural urban kind of, but officially Ashtabula has been more rural. So we're trying to make sure that we do have a rural network group, but we're also bringing them into the fold to be a part of the network to give support as well. But for the most part, similar challenges. Hence, the networking that takes place has been helpful. I believe the superintendent is, did you say you were already a part of the mid-size
Yeah,
urban?
we're associated with mid-size urbans.
Maybe you can explain just a little bit of.
Yeah, well, I've been told.
Okay, so that's an example of being with like-minded folks who do have some great things going on, just like I'm sure we will find here as we are going to be finding strengths. And often, I think someone had mentioned, we have the habit of recreating the wheel instead of learning from someone, you know, best practices. We work with the Ohio 8 districts as well as the urban districts that at some given point they were at the lowest. Every single one of them has some shining lights. But just like here, we're trying to have those shining lights be duplicated throughout. We need it to be district-wide. And we need your district to succeed. It behooves us for you to be successful. We do not, as at ODE, want your district to have an academic distress commission if it can be avoided, so that you're maintaining your control. It doesn't help us for you to not succeed. And when you don't succeed, we take it partly to blame because we look at it as a collective effort. That includes us as well. So I hope that answers.
It helps, great deal, thank you.
Are there any other questions? I can't thank you so much already for the hospitality and especially the leadership has given to take our copious requests for documents, and we look forward to the opportunity to come back and communicate with you further. And of course, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to communicate with us. And as I said, from this point on, as we anticipate that things will improve here, you forever have a partner in our office and in our center and with ODE to give you support, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller.
Sure. You got the lights down, and we have time now?
Right.
Blank.
Thank you.
Dr. James Humphries, did we have anyone sign up to,
No, ma'am, no one is signed.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to item 4, we need approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from March 11th. Do we have a motion here, please?
I moved?
Any discussion? Mrs. Seaman?
Ms. Remington,
Yes.
Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Dr. Humphries,
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly.
Yes. And item 5, our presentations.
So, I know that Addison and Mrs. Nance are been very, very patient.
She's waited a long time.
Yeah.
She's reading the whole thing.
So we're really, really, really happy with you. And so we do have a wild presentation.
Addison, come on down.
So this is different.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And Addison, and Addison's mom, thank you for waiting. This is Addison. Addison is a 5th grader at Maple Elementary, and her essay was submitted by her teacher, Miss Aston. Specifically her opinion essay because of her exceptional writing abilities and her passion for the topic. So you're prepared, right? You're so ready. All right, it's all yours.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you for giving me this time to present my work. My writing's about zoos, and if we're for zoos or against them. Zoos, helping the environment. Many people feel that zoos are hurting animals and making them depressed. However, I think zoos are very harmonious to the cities and the environment. If we were to take a closer look at the zoo and the people working there, we might see the beauty in the things you thought were evil. Safe from extinction. When we look at animals to learn about their worst predators, it doesn't occur to us that humans are animals' top predators. People hunt animals for many things like clothing, food, jewelry, and medicine. But because of this hunting, we are hurting the environment and the animals living around us. We hunt some animals so much that many are almost extinct or are endangered. Not only that, but because of our population and making paper and other goods we use, we are destroying those animals' habitats. Zoos help those animals by giving them safe refuges and food. Kyber Freed states in the book Zoos, Pro or Con, many kinds of animals that have lived in balance on our planet for millions of years are now in danger of becoming extinct. Not only that, but some zoos breed the animals that are endangered and return them to their home. From learning to saving. Typically, when we learn about something, we can get very passionate about it and make a difference in the world. Zoos have been saving many animals for decades and also provide a first-hand learning experience. When animals are in zoos, the people working there are able to learn more about these animals. With the artificial living space that looks almost like their real habitat, people can learn so much more about those animals' behavioral traits. Many of the visitors that come to the zoo are not able to afford going to a safari or any place far away that could help their child learn. So going to a zoo is a great opportunity to have family time and learn firsthand about the animals in their habitats. Roy Chen states, zoos give millions of people the chance to see and appreciate wildlife firsthand. The more people learn about animals and how their homes are being destroyed, the more we can make a difference in the world. Saving animals forever. People are concerned about animals in zoos. There is an argument that animals shouldn't go to zoos and that we should just keep them in the wild. But if we were to do that, many animals would die off, and they would have no place to live. People don't usually take animals from the wild anymore. Instead, the zoos trade animals and ship them off to different zoos, hoping to give it a better place to live. Many zoos only care about profit, and when running low on money, take shortcuts through the building of the new habitat. But if we were to change that law, we can make sure zoos don't take shortcuts in the building and give the animals the care they deserve. Even still, many zoos take care of the animals. That creates a special bond between the animals and the zookeeper. That bond makes them just like best friends. Julian Wagner states, I truly have bonds with most of the animals and love helping them, even if it means cleaning up what they left behind. Zoos are helping millions of animals around the world, from saving animals from extinction to teaching people how to help in the community. Zoos are helpful. Do you really want zoos to stop taking animals in? Thank you again for this time.
She could go to college.
Very nice. So wow is the appropriate response. Wow. Really fantastic job.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
So what is your favorite zoo animal?
Turtles.
Turtles?
Tortoise or turtle? Kind of
Both.
you like this?
one of your best skills was modeling for your mom's fashion show, but I think you've outdone yourself with this.
Thank you.
Class of 2025, 2026?
That's a lot of math.
Valedictorian, I don't know. That's
Very impressive.
Where did you find your quotes from? Did you use the library?
So,
Did you?
My teacher, Mrs. Aston, when we do writing topics, she has this page where there are different websites she found that we can go in to quote. But this one, the last paragraph about the bonds with animals, I didn't find anything in the text about that, but I love animals so much, and I have a special bond with my animals, and I've seen many zookeepers create bonds with the animals they take care of. So I looked it up on Google, and I found a website, and it was this kind of interview, and they were interviewing a girl who helped out in the zoo. And I found this quote, and I really thought it just sparked a great ending.
You were right.
You were right.
Very good. Can I sign her up for Lake Erie right now?
Inappropriate. Not only was the content of your essay wonderful, but the delivery was amazing.
I'm curious about the uniform, because blue, is that campfire? Is it Girl Scouts?
It's like Girl Scouts, but it's
Okay.
Christian based.
Got it, to your church. Very nice. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I mean, we could just stay and ask her questions.
Yeah. You can hang out, watch animal planet together. and talk.
No one, and you can go home. You don't have to stay any longer.
There you go.
Have you watched the animal shows on Saturday morning?
Not
There's
really.
That Chris and all those, no?
Oh, yeah, sometimes I watch
Yeah.
that.
I do too.
I watch Our Planet on Netflix.
Mhm. Right, yeah.
And what animals are you caring for at home right now?
A turtle. Sometimes I help my sister with a lizard.
All right.
And then we have 2 cats.
Okay. And what type of turtle?
We weren't quite sure, but I believe it's a Russian tortoise.
Okay.
I had a box turtle that ran away.
She was a little bit slow.
Seriously. It was named April after the Ninja Turtles. It was a girl, so the name was April.
What I find interesting is that many people think turtles are very slow, but in reality, usually tortoises are slow, the normal turtles aren't, and then sea turtles are fast in the water, but slow on land.
We're persistent.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you again. Excellent job. And for real, you're welcome to stay, but you.
If you need more of a civics lesson than you already got.
You kind of double earned.
Did you get a picture of Addison?
I did not, but if we want one, we can. She has her one from the website.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, as long as we have that.
With her teacher.
Okay, that's right.
Okay.
I did see it.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
So we're doing another tabby fundraiser, and I just brought invitations for the women, but I
Okay.
wasn't sure, since it wasn't on the list anywhere, I didn't know if that was an appropriate thing. So I can leave them if you want to take one. It's this Friday at Maple at the gym at 7, and
Okay.
it's just a fundraiser to earn money for the lunch, the meals for the students.
And the last one, which I was able to attend, was amazing, with appetizers from Lore Bistro.
Same thing this time as well.
Only women.
No,
It's women's clothing.
Women's
Men are welcome to come.
It's a lot in my room.
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, I'll just leave them back here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So, thank you guys.
Okay. So Chris has to follow.
After the first presentation, I was rethinking my career choices, but now I feel all better. Now I know why I'm doing this again. So this is my 1 minute kind of yearly update. It'll be my first time with you guys, but as a district, we receive federal funds for special education, and so every year I have to invite public participation to give feedback on that. I used to kind of hold that in isolation. I would just set up a meeting and wouldn't often have participants, so now we do it in this format, and that way, if anyone's looking at board minutes, they can see kind of how we're using, how the district utilizes our special ed funding. So, just a really quick summary. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there's other information I can bring to the board, I'd be happy to present it. But out of the federal dollars we receive that are specifically to be targeted kindergarten through 12th grade and beyond for students on IEPs or students with disabilities, we use about 85% of that funding towards salary and benefits. So that's kind of earmarked that we pay for about 6 full-time special education staff. The remainder of that money, we use about 40% for mental health services for people with disabilities. We have contracted mental health services in all the buildings. We use Crossroads and Signature Health for that. Signature Health is mostly working with our kids with disabilities. And the reason we contract with that is because when we use contract dollars with mental health, we're providing, we provide payment for some of those direct services, but mental health services can also access Medicaid dollars. So we use a lot of Medicaid dollars to fund individual, family, and group services we do. So we spend about, like I said, 40% of what's left of that, 15%. The rest of the big chunk of money really goes to private transportation. We try to work with our transportation drivers and aides to transport kids to separate facilities. But sometimes if we can't, either due to the students' needs or due to just kind of the amount of staff we have available, we use other funds for private transportation. And really the rest of that funding goes towards supplies or equipment specifically targeted for students with disabilities. We might share curriculum costs, or if we need specialized curriculum, devices, those kind of things, we use the rest of the funding for that. And then about 8% of our dollars are directed towards our non-public, which is just a requirement of our federal dollars. So, just another piece to add, we do have a school Medicaid program, so any services that students get with speech or occupational therapy, nursing, school psychology, we can bill our Medicaid school program. And we also try to, certain equipment for students is Medicaid eligible, so we also try to use funding for that, like speech devices and those kind of things. So that's kind of my summary. I don't know if there's any public input into that. Not questions. So that's everything. Questions?
Do you find that we're getting adequate grant money to support the needs of the district?
It really doesn't even come close to come cover. So we're using those federal dollars for about 6 full-time staff, and we have over 50 certified staff members, so teachers, occupational therapists, psychs, and then we have about 35 paraprofessionals. So all of that is kind of general fund really, and then all of our tuition placements which are really the most costly. So we have about 6% of our students with disabilities are in other settings besides our public schools, and that's quite a bit for tuition. And that's why we really try to look at what are the services we can bring into the school. Because those, you see, based on the tuition that come across those.
Yeah.
Can be pretty expensive. It's just kind of goes towards it, but
That doesn't really cover anything.
and we do try to look at, there's different funding avenues, there's some, there's catastrophic costs, which is really if you're dealing with some of those kids who are over a certain amount, based on their needs, there's ways to recoup some of that.
Were other districts in the same boat we're in?
As far as funding, I would say yes, that the amount may differ, but the percentage that they get towards their special education costs, it doesn't cover the cost of the program. So, yes, and I think we do, if you're looking at just Lake County, not all districts in Lake County pursue Medicaid dollars because it doesn't
Apply to them.
What about parents? Are parents able to apply for funds to help educate their children? I mean, not,
No,
you know, I mean, their school,
Not if
obviously,
they're-
money, but parents.
None.
not in public school. Yeah.
There's a grant, at least one grant, but it's for special private
private
Education
schools.
scholarships, yeah. So there's two different scholarship avenues parents can pursue, but that's if they pull their kids out of it.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, anything kind of part of that free and appropriate public education is anything they require through their IEP is that it's a cost of the district.
Why not? I mean, I know we struggle to fund stuff, but from my own experiences, our district does a head and shoulders above dealing with children with disabilities that other districts in the area, because I've talked to so many people in different districts where they're just complaining left and right about how their kids just falling through the cracks, this and that and the other. They went somewhere and maybe got a little better, but I know, you know, talking to parents here, I've never heard anyone say, my kids just got written off or falling through the cracks. They're not necessarily perfect, but you know, I had, my own experience, I've had a child with an IEP and I've gone through some of that, so I get a little bit of understanding that, you know, the job that you do and that our staff does is so much better. And I mean, this is a very qualified, biased opinion, but it's so much better than what I'm hearing from other districts in our area, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I agree with that. I have friends who have moved out of district for jobs or whatever, and they just can't believe, you know, how people probably were tired of hearing, well, in the district that we used to go to, you know, they were so wonderful, and what's wrong with you, and why aren't you providing this? And,
That's great, and I think that's just part of kind of the leadership and the culture of Kansas City that
Yeah.
students are understood.
But I mean, you all need to know that you can't be compared with other districts. For a lot of people who move out, that it's just above and beyond.
Good to hear.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Excellent results.
Okay, our next regular meeting is May 13th.
Madam President, I will be out of state
Okay.
for that meeting, so I don't know. You can wait a whole month until I get back for a legislative report, or, you know, perhaps someone else would like to do it.
Oh, we will suffer through it.
Okay, I'm just, you know.
Okay, item 7.1, Ms. Remington?
Yes.
We will wait your report this month.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that the governor signed into law our House Bill 62, which I've discussed this before. It funds the state transportation budget, and it does not hold our district responsible for the increase in the motor fuel tax rates. So that's a good thing. In the Senate, the Senate Bill 4 was passed by 31-0. And again, I've discussed this. This bill is one that adds the $100 million to the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission budget. And that will cover 8 districts this year. Senate Bill 34, dealing with employee and educator conduct, went to the Senate Education Committee for its 3rd hearing. Senate Bill 102, this is a legislation that creates dyslexia, yeah, okay. I can't even now, I'm not going to give
Dyslexia.
thank you screening for public schools. This was Senators Peggy Lerner and Andrew Brenner testified for this bill. And the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee conducted a second hearing on House Bill 123, which requires public schools to implement certain programs regarding suicide awareness and prevention and violence prevention. The committee also conducted first hearings on the following bills. House Bill 132, which requires public and non-public schools to notify each student parent of the exceptions from immunization that are required to attend school. And as we know, in some states, measles is on the rise, and some schools are saying if you're not immunized, you cannot attend school. So, House Bill 164 deals with student religious expression in public schools. And something I was alluding to, House Bill 154, this would dissolve all academic distress commissions, repeal the laws regarding distress commissions, and establish a learning community center process for low-performing school districts and for school buildings and for school districts currently subject to distress commissions. So that was its first hearing, its first hearing. And that's my report for this evening.
Any questions or comments?
Before I leave, I'm going to do, one month, I'm going to do a PowerPoint graphics. I'm all excited now. I'll work on it.
It'll be
Animated,
animated.
oh, wow, really, we'll see.
Okay, section 8 is the treasurer's consent agenda, and we need a motion here, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Singer?
Sure. The first item is a list of donations that were presented to the district over the past month. Many of them are for the musical. There's a few others. One that is significant in value is the Pioneer Violin for the 4th and 5th graders. That's the first one. The second one is the second resolution required to put the renewal on the ballot for the financing district. And then 8.3 and 8.4, they kind of go hand in hand. 8.4 is the TSA Consulting Group. It's the agreements to kind of be the third-party administrator for 403 and 457 plans. So there are some changes that are coming to that. The biggest one is probably going to be that we'll be able to offer our employees a 457 Roth. So you have the ability to do the traditional, or you can do 457 Roth. So we're working on getting that paperwork process. It's still going to take some time, but that will be the biggest change. And then 8.5 are just the salary schedules for the next school year for the administrative schedules and the exempt employees. Any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Dr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Ms. Parzolini?
Yes. Item 9, Mrs. Singer?
Item 9 through 9.1 through 9.5 are the reports through the month of March. The revenue entitlement report I noted is still off. I got an email back from LGC. The Safe Development team is working on fixing that report, and it's 2 updates away. It's on the schedule, so they're assuming they do an update every month. So about 2 more months out, two others in my office are gonna go. We're one of the few that are actually live in it, so we're going to offer insight.
So all these reports are generated, at least the form of them are generated by the state. We have no ability to customize
So we
in-house?
can, so you can do one of two things. So when you like log on to the new software, there's a slew of like SSDT, so State Support Development Team has created all these reports. And then there's also some where you can, I call, Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang and create these reports, but it's time consuming and the amount of like just different areas of where you can pull your data from, if you pull it from the wrong area, it's just, I mean, you can look at like, here's the revenue, and then there's like a dozen choices. It's like, well, I just want revenue. Like, there are so many different areas to grab all this stuff from. And then setting it up and displaying it. I mean, you literally are creating a report by hand. So I have made some, but it's like, it's time consuming. So they have one that tells them what they want. There's one little glitch in it, so fix the glitch, is how I look at it. Instead of me basically recreating the whole entire wheel, which they have, they just have like, just gonna fix one little spoke. So it's, and we're one of the few that are live, so we find errors that they kind of went through. They're like, okay, that looks good. They move on to the next report. It's like, well, but when you actually look at it and read it, it's like, no, it's not, guys. You need to fix this. So.
So, moving on. Item 10, the superintendent's consent agenda. Do we have a motion here, please?
Some,
Okay, 10.1, we have a disposal. 10.2 is second reading and adoption of policy updates. 10.3 is high school math curriculum resources. 10.4 is our agreement with Lakewood College for participation in the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration lab for our students. 10.5 is agreement for OSHA membership. 10.6 is a lease renewal for our storage unit. 10.7 is out-of-state field trip. That is the FBLA trip for nationals. And one more item is pulled aside, but that those are the items that you can say.
I have a few questions about the Lake Erie College HVAC agreement. So, how are we able to enter into that agreement when there's a similar program at Auburn Career Center and we already have an agreement with them?
Them offering the same service doesn't preclude us from additional opportunities. It is Auburn fills up their program.
Okay. So we're not breaking any contract with them?
No. It's that's our primary relationship, obviously, for your TAC. But I say there's not bad blood there or anything.
Okay.
Our relationship with Auburn.
I thought Auburn students, some Auburn students were in the program.
That has
They were in
happened.
the initial program.
At Lake Erie?
Yeah, Lake Erie.
And so the Lake Erie.
So that means they're doing both?
There was at least one student who did that. He was not from Painesville, but somewhere else.
How do they have enough time in their day to do both?
He might have done the adult.
Maybe he did the adult program,
Oh,
because we do have, I think there is an adult program.
Yeah, the lab is really designed as an adult program, but it sits empty all day. So they said, well, we can open this up to
Okay.
schools. So it's a really great opportunity. That's how Auburn and this are. It's just an expansion of opportunity for our kids.
Okay.
It's a block away
Okay.
rather than trying to get out to Auburn, which is challenging for some kids. And the one difference in the programming is that Auburn is largely residential,
Correct.
whereas Lake Erie includes the
Commercial,
commercial as well.
Okay,
and it's all train equipment.
okay. TRANE furnaces?
TRANE, yeah.
So I would say they're not competing programs,
Okay.
it's just wide.
So they're not competing for our kids either, and there's no bad blood between us and Auburn because of that?
Correct. In fact, the Lake Erie started with trying to kind of work something out with Auburn. And it just
I
didn't-
think
it just didn't work.
I think Auburn came to Lake Erie,
Yeah.
because one of our maintenance staff members is certified,
Okay.
and, this whole thing.
Because is it not unusual for a four-year college to have
Yes,
this?
very
kind of program?
unusual,
Okay.
yeah.
Is this a trend that Lake Erie is going towards?
No, it was just an opportunity,
Okay. And they have the space?
we have the space, and we also have some very interesting boiler systems, et cetera, that they can work on as part of their training. So it's kind of a win-win for Lake Erie, that's what.
Is there any kind of certification at the end of this program?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So this does include, the kids are going to get the NAEP certification, which I forget what that means, but it's like a comprehensive certification. They're going to get the 10-hour OSHA, and they're going to get their EPA 608. So the kids, they're going to get graduation requirements as participants in this program, as well as be walking away with those credentials, which really puts them
And right into a well-paying job.
So it would be graduation requirements similar to what they would have gotten at Auburn?
Yeah. Right. As far as career credentials.
But at Lake Erie, we are paying for their tuition and we are paying for their tools and all of that, correct?
Well,
Is it
we're paying
Auburn?
Auburn too. It's just the funding is funneled a little bit differently.
Okay.
But yeah, we pay for career center seats through the way they're funded. This is also career technical funding that we can divert.
Okay.
And as of now, we have like 5 kids identified to start in the fall.
Okay.
But there's room for growth. Fortunately, the agreement gives us flexibility to kind of start small and help grow. Mentor is also participating. So they're going to help, fund the program at least to break even point to allow it to operate.
Because they're in a Mayfield contract.
They're in the compact. Their agreement with the college looks a little bit different. It's not set up as a per seat fee. They're renting the space and providing the instructor. It's just.
So it's not open to Riverside, Perry, or anybody else?
I don't know if I don't know the extent to which they talk, but to my knowledge, it's us and Necker. And I could be wrong.
Okay.
They could be partial.
Yeah, I don't know, I've just heard about Harvey
And the ribbon cutting is this Saturday.
Saturday.
Just out of curiosity, are we going to have to transport kids to Lake Erie?
We agreed to provide necessary changes.
They rock.
Yeah, it's walkway. But
But
just in terms of safety and those kinds of things, I want to make it available if it's
I
necessary.
could pick them up on my way to work.
We'll talk.
I know. You do that.
I'm definitely a witness to that.
I will pick you up.
Yeah, she knows, until she got to school in the mornings, yeah. And I did pass my van driving certification. Many
Take a
years
van.
ago.
What is this, this business? The storage unit?
Yeah, so that's the kind of general storage. It's the unit that we've had for quite some time out beyond transportation. Out
The warehouse.
back that way, yeah. We store some, like seasonal lawn equipment in there. We store some furniture and desks and things that we're not ready to dispose of, but we just kind of need a holding place for. We are working to transition our other storage options within the district to get out of having to rent that space. We're just not quite there yet.
Okay.
When we're voting here, we're not, the overnight field trip spring 2020 is up for future discussion, we're not approving it.
It's a separate item.
Right.
So
We're
it's
gonna
not-
vote on 10-1 to 10-7.
Got it.
Okay, now I have to abstain from the Lake Erie one. So I'll just abstain.
Okay, so we're ready for a vote on 10-1 to 10-7 then.
Okay, Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Dr. Humphries,
Yes.
Mr. Remington, you're abstaining,
I'm abstaining.
Mr. Sackett,
Yes.
Ms. Parsoni.
Yes.
Okay, and then item 10.9 is an overnight field trip. This would be the spring of 2020. This is the proposal for the track team trip to Florida.
Comments? Are we ready for comments?
Need a motion and a second.
Oh, a
We
motion.
need a motion first.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
To me, this is more like a spring break field trip, holiday. It's a very expensive one. I'm not quite sure. It's not that our track team is going to compete. It's lovely that they can go see an ESPN competition facility, but we do have Spire right in Geneva. When reading this, we have a possible 9 coaches going, yet in the verbiage it says that it's a guarantee that 2 staff members will be with the students at all times. So I'm kind of wondering what the other 7 are going to be doing, since they're staying in a Caribbean Disney beach hotel. I don't.
Why did you get 9?
Well, if you count everybody up that they say in addition,
Well,
Adam Johnson and the other.
Adam Johnson is if needed.
Right,
Rod Coffey and
right.
Heather Weaver, and so with the 2 coaches.
So
it's
all of
4.
that, no, and then you've got to add all Rashawn Alston and all those, I counted.
There are 6 above in item 4
Right,
and 3
and then
more in
3
item
is
Okay.
not. Yeah, it would be lovely, but it's not. There are large universities here that the kids could visit. It just kind of appears to me that $1,000 per student, they're responsible for 600, and then they have to fundraise another 400, and then they're asking the boosters to pay over 3,000 for breakfasts. I just think the money could be spent in a far more, I don't know, just in a better way. It just, I'm sorry, it sounds to me like this is a great idea, and if we get the kids to go, it'll be a great vacation on the beach of Disney, you know? I mean, that's just my opinion. It's an unearned, very expensive field trip to introduce kids to a large university and a ESPN facility. I don't see the point of it, you know? Again, if it was a competition, okay. If they had won a state championship or something, okay. But, it just sounds like a great idea for a summer break vacation to me.
I know, the band has gone to Disney twice now in the last 5 years. It does it once every 4 years, so.
And they play
And they play, yeah, they do, but it's not like they earned, I mean, they got selected, but.
Well, that's earning the right.
Yeah, but my point is, they go because of where it is, not because it's some honor that's been bestowed on them. No, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah,
you know,
I
the
know.
choir
I
just
know.
went to New York, and yeah, they did a workshop, and that was valuable, and there was, but it, you know, there is value in traveling for the kids in this district who don't get a chance to travel.
And some kids.
I'm not saying necessarily that I agree with this one, but I'm just, to say that it needs to be earned, I think is pushing too high of a standard onto this when we haven't put it on the other similar trips.
Well, I
mean, I guess my question really is, what are they gonna do at the ESPN place?
right. And it also says they're going to the theme parks too. And visiting a college.
Isn't this the middle of their season? So
This is spring break.
No, they wouldn't.
would they not have started
That's
it this
right.
week?
They had started already by end of March, right?
Right.
So in the middle of your season, you're gonna take a week-long break and,
It would be the middle, but they.
Okay, in their season. in their season?
Maybe right at the beginning, maybe might be
What
right
a-
at the beginning of the
Just
season.
what do they pay, what if we pay for this period for the kids to go to on the Disney trip? Because I don't think that paid, was it $1,000 a kid?
No, it wasn't that much.
I don't think so.
And how many nights was that?
It wasn't as many as they're going.
No, this is a
They were
week-long
gone,
thing.
they were gone maybe
Four?
total of 4 days. They were only in Disney 2 nights, and then there was a night of travel above way. You know, night on the bus of travel. I think they were there 2.5 days, 2 nights.
And 2 days of.
No school days will be missed. The trip will take place over spring break.
I guess I guess as I'm looking at it from a value perspective and what they're getting out of it, they're not going down there to get coaching, right?
Nope.
Doesn't sound like that.
They're gonna get practice at a
They will get
world-class
practice.
facility.
They will get exposure.
You would try that. What's your thoughts on this?
You were a track.
Yeah.
I was in track, but just even being an underprivileged kid, I think we sometimes undervalue exposure to other areas and undervalue exposure to experiences that we may not otherwise get. When I graduated from Case, I had an opportunity to go to Europe or get a car. I got the car. I regretted that every day since, not taking the trip, the 2-week trip to Europe. I think that if for nothing else, exposure is very important, especially to show these kids. I mean, we have great universities in Ohio, but we know we have great universities in Ohio. There are also a lot of universities outside Ohio.
I mean, I assume all the coaches are paying their own way for this, correct?
I don't get that impression.
They have,
And I assume they're being paid.
Yeah.
Well,
they have a list of fundraisers that they are doing.
Okay, now I have a concern about the fundraisers. And I have a concern about the fundraisers because it's been my understanding in the past that some of the extracurriculars have been limited to one fundraiser because there's so many extracurriculars. And I think there are 11 listed here, which means the same people in the same community are going to be hit over and over and over again for one extracurricular activity, which that's a concern to me.
I mean, there are a lot of fundraisers, and students and families will be required to cover $600 of the $1,000 out of pocket. The remaining $400 per student will be funded by the following fundraisers. What happens if they don't raise enough? And then the boosters, $3,400 to cover breakfast.
Are the boosters supporting this?
This is their proposal. I don't know if they've even approached the boosters on that. I guess my concern is this, you know, if every single coach who goes needs to be present with these kids at all times. There is no 2 staff members will be there
That's
and
not
then
what it,
the other.
that's not what it said. It said there will be at least 2 available in emergency conditions. 2 staff members available at all times to deal with emergency situations.
Well, there should be
They're all going to.
7 coaches available. at all
From my
times.
understanding, it seems like the kids are always supervised, but in case of an emergency, they've designated, you know, 2 staff members to go out and handle the emergency.
If you're going to take somebody to the hospital, it
Yeah.
requires
Right,
2
2
people to
people.
leave.
Right. Well, I just want to make sure that anyone who goes there is actively engaged with the students at all times. They aren't, as much as I hate to say this, sitting on the beach drinking.
That's true for all of this.
Beverages.
True. I mean, Lane's
Yeah.
going to Hershey at the end of May and doing, you know, the whole Hershey trip, and they're playing there, but it's the same thing. It's an
But it's
amusement
not a
park.
resort.
Not quite.
And it's not a
It's an
week-long-
amusement park. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a week long, and it's not the extent that, you know, I mean,
I know. I'm sorry, it just hit me, you know, the Caribbean Beach Resort.
that's a economy scale resort at Disney. That's one of the cheapest ones they have, just so you know.
I think the optics are not good.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think this doesn't, it's not looking like, if we're serious about training kids about what it takes to be a competitive college athlete, we have got a variety of, why are we not taking them down to watch a track meet at Jesse Owens Stadium and having them talk to the coaches down there and spending the night in Columbus and going to the water park? Because I think that you're not going to get any better athletic coaching than you would, and I'm sure, I mean, I took my lacrosse kids down to Ohio State every year, and they got to play at a halftime of a Buckeyes game, and they got to meet with the coaches, and they got to meet with the players and shake their hands, and it was a formative experience. I get that. I'm not necessarily seeing that here. I'm seeing like marketing from ESPN Wide World of Sports.
Right.
So I don't, I'm not, if we want to table this and have somebody come and show me the value, but if we vote on this now, I can't support it. It's too much. It's swinging for the fences and way over the fences, and who else is doing this? Are they doing this at Venture? You know what I mean? This is, I've never heard of anything quite like this. I mean, this isn't like, oh, we're a really good team and we're going to compete, you know, at the New York Indoor Athletic Club running, you know what I mean?
Or ESPN is hosting a high school track meet for any high schools whose track team wants to come down and participate. And we'll have top coaches there and, you know.
The optics are at Jejunga.
Yeah. Right, that's,
Well, I think whoever put this together, I think did an amazing job of the presentation. Everything was thorough and all of that.
Mhm.
However, when I read it, I thought of FBLA, where students have put work in all year long. They've competed at the state level, and they're going out of state to compete even further as an educational experience that could, you know, they could earn scholarships and who knows what else.
You know, I look at item number 2, how is the trip related to the educational program in the district? You know, it's saying work on independent living skills, soft skills, along with being exposed to multicultural experiences. Offer student athletes an opportunity to visit a major university.
we are a multicultural experience.
Well, no, and
Our
I'll
school
got about
district
certainly
is.
defer to Dr. Humphrey's point on that.
Yeah.
And But traveling to Florida for independent living and soft skills,
Yeah.
I just, like Steve, I struggle to see the justification for that.
I personally don't want to scrap it, and we'd like to give them another chance at presentation to.
Yeah, I would like to talk with them.
Explain really what's
Yes.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, this doesn't spell out what they're going to be doing, and I'm more than open to listening.
Me too. And it gives them an opportunity maybe to rethink some of the things and put a little more structure in the field trip, you know, as to just going into ESPN and seeing it, going to the park and experiencing it, going to a big university, you know, I mean, those things are all of value, but for what it was, because our families, you know, we talk about our economic situation, and that's a lot of money to put on a family, to have to come up with.
Well, can I say one other thing and I'll be done, but let me tell you, I mean, I can only speak to my own experience. So Nathan, my son, on his spring break for Ohio State, aligned with a program that's called Buckeye Serve, and they went down to Central Florida, but not the University of Central Florida. They went to a little town called Immokalee, which is where all your great tomatoes come from, and all your lettuce comes from in the winter. And worked for a week with all the children who are in a Head Start program down there. And they had an opportunity to go over to Fort Myers Beach and meet with the wealthy alumni there and do some networking. And they got an opportunity to spend a day going out into and doing something really fun. They got to ride the jet skis out to see the manatees and the dolphins following them around. But they did some work too. So there was some diversity and inclusion training and some attempt to reach awareness both on how, you know, folks are here and folks are there, and you're wondering where your tomatoes come from. And now he wants to go down and spend like 3 weeks this summer. And I'm like, no, you have a real difference.
I just like a little more substance.
A little more
I think,
substance.
to-
And so if there's opportunities for that, I mean, go to Central Florida then and let's work with, you guys are, go work with a youth program in a place like Immokalee, Florida, doing athletic training for those little kids. Something like that.
For the band trip, I know it's very structured for FBLA. What's the band trip like? How structured is the band trip? I mean, you said they're only there for 2 days, but.
No, I mean, they have very specific schedule as far as when they're performing
Okay.
and when they're eating and all that. They have free time where they can go in groups and go throughout the park depending on who they are. They have to check in at certain times in certain
Okay.
places with certain adults. But, you know, it's not a regimented, you know, we're doing this, you're learning this. I mean, they're having a good time too, and that's okay.
Hey,
As
oh,
long
that's
as
great.
there's some substance there, and anyway.
Yeah, could you please table this? What do we do?
So I'm gonna make a motion to propose it till next month, or longer if necessary.
Can't, it has to go on the next board meeting.
It does?
If you table it tonight, it has to come before the next board meeting. Whether it's a regular or special, I mean, if you want to have one before she leaves, then you have to call on a meeting.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, I think everybody knows how I feel and what my
I can't vote for
expectations
you.
are. No, I know that, but I mean, you know, I just want more substance. I want it to be, to have more purpose than it has right now.
Is this an annual trip? Is this an annual trip?
It's a biannual,
Biannual?
which I think is also too often. I mean, I like Amir's position where I do it once every 4 years, so a student gets to go on things for more.
Once in their career.
Right, and that's it.
And it's true that the band trip is a reward, but it's a reward for a whole
4
year's.
years. Okay.
Yeah. And I get it that these kids are gonna be raising money throughout the year, but I just don't.
That they're gonna be raising money with every other group.
Well, and I down at Miami University or Ohio University and see what it's like to be a college athlete and how hard that is to balance your studies and your work, because I can't imagine what it's like to be a varsity college athlete in Division I. So,
Yeah.
you know,
No, and then what happens if you get hurt?
yeah.
There's
being
your
in-
scholarship.
There's your scholarship,
Yeah.
so you've got to be a good student in order to stay in college.
Anyway, so
Oh, well, okay.
I'm making a motion to,
I'll second that motion.
What's the motion?
To
Table
table.
it.
to postpone it to next month's meeting.
And it would be nice if
Yeah, I anticipated that,
they could come in
you know, to have that discussion
speak.
tonight. So next month, we'll have to take action on it,
Mhm.
yea or nay.
Can't push that one.
Right.
Robert says.
So we either do it at the next regular meeting or before Ms. Remington leaves.
Well, don't worry. I know you'll do the right thing. My concern is just that there's more substance in
I don't think that many fundraisers are a problem. I mean, it's a year and a half.
A couple of them, they were talking about doing in that area, you know, the car wash and one of the other ones. So anyway, can we vote on this, please?
Okay, so this is the vote to table it to the May board meeting.
Postpone.
Postpone.
I got yelled at a couple of years ago for motioning the table, and that was the incorrect motion. That's why I thought this.
All right,
I
postpone
thought
this
Be
to
ready.
May.
I thought it was to get the effect out of it.
Dr. Humphries,
Yeah.
Ms. Remington,
Yes.
Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Ms. Firestone.
Yes. Okay, item 11, personnel, we need a motion here, please.
So moved.
What?
She needed a motion.
Motion on personnel.
To the personnel, second.
Okay, 11.1 is resignations. 11.2 is employment for summer school. 11.3 is change of assignments. 11.4 are leaves. 11.5 is the exempt staff salary schedule, contract renewal, and setting of salaries for 1920. 11.6 is classified substitutes. 11.7 is certified substitutes. 11.8 is supplemental and pupil activity contracts.
Okay, questions or comments here?
I don't have it.
None? Mrs. Seaman?
Okay, Ms. Remington,
Yes.
Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Dr. Humphries, Ms. Firestone.
Yes.
Uh, 12.1, I have professional visits taken from the general fund.
Okay, we need a motion here.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Mrs. Seaman?
Okay, Mr. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Dr. Humphries, Ms. Remington,
Yes.
Ms. Firestone.
Yes. And Dr. Humphries, Dr. James Humphries, nobody signed in over there again? I don't think so. There's nobody else here.
She's thorough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's a scientist. She's got.
I know, I just can't see that far. No one signed it.
Thank you. Okay, recognizing positive moments.
Well, last Thursday, we had Dr. Engelhardt organized a community outreach team meeting. We met for about 2.5 hours. Had some really fantastic conversation and kind of the beginnings of an action plan establishment. I think it really was a good conversation, and you know, it's kind of a lot of the same people who are actively engaged in the schools out from outside, but there's some that I didn't know, and had a lot to contribute. And it was nice to talk to some of these people, get some really great ideas.
How long will you be meeting?
We're going to shoot for monthly.
Okay.
So we do have our next date on the calendar. We are still, we're actually creating an action plan.
Okay.
A real action plan with action steps and assignments and timelines and everything. So I'd really like to be able to have that pretty much established to open the year next year. And then we'll still plan on meeting on a monthly basis to provide updates and kind of share progress. And that's information we'll be able to bring back and present to the board on an ongoing basis. So it's just going to be another arm, that just like we have with our district improvement plan for the district leadership team. This is going to be a similar structure, only with community engagement.
And are you still meeting at Morse Avenue?
No, now that we moved into the kind of get your hands dirty work, we met over at the board office this last time.
Okay.
We'll probably be meeting in the district for that kind of work, simply because we didn't use the facilities, no supplies, and things like that to support the work.
Okay.
So it was a good start.
Very much so.
The Avery luncheon for the FBLA recognition last month, Dr. Egenhart, Mr. Chakshi, and who else?
Mr. Shard.
And there were 30 students that competed at the state level, and every single student placed in one of the top 10 positions. So it was very nice to see, again, how well our kids have done.
How many students participated, go to the state competition?
It says there are 22 on the.
No, I mean statewide. How many
Statewide.
students are down here? What?
This year was a little lighter than the past. My daughter said there was only like 9 different districts this year. So it was a little lighter than normal. Apparently a couple of the districts are having trouble keeping their program.
I think they're start to lose,
You know, when you ask Miss Rapport, it used to be back in the day when they went, there was a school, and I really don't know who it was, but they came in like in uniforms. They had blazers and, and our kids, I mean, most schools were like, kind of groaning when they walked in because they cleaned up every year. Now people are kind of doing that with us. It's like, oh, really coming in.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Well, and again, it's a big, we always do, but a big message of gratitude goes out to Avery. All the support that they provide, not just with the lunch and with the trips, but on a monthly basis, they have people in the schools, they have our students in their facilities, and they invest heavily in this program.
Yep. Any other comments?
I see a Harvey High School young lady won the Rotary 4-way contest.
Oh,
We, normally, there's a competition from, trying to think, Perry, Riverside, Fairport, Harvey. I'm not sure who all attended this year because I was gone, I was out of town. But Harvey has done very, very well in the competition every year.
Where they, I'm sorry, where they came
it's called the four-way contest. There are 4 truths that are the basis of Rotary, and they have to address each one in an essay that they present. And they're graded on if they successfully touched all 4 truths, how their presentation was, and how how engaging their essay was. They're usually a topic that they have interest in, or something that's personal that they've experienced in their lives. They now go on to the Cleveland regional competition.
That wasn't Addison, was it?
No, but she, let me tell you, Addison, a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll be
Gosh,
there.
it's good.
Wow.
Typically.
I know.
Just kind of for the record, I had to go and look at our graduation rates on the OED site. And our 2016-17, which was the most recent I could pull up, 4-year longitudinal graduation rate was 76 points. So I'm not sure where he was getting his number.
Yeah,
But,
that was,
maybe he was dyslexic.
Yeah.
dyslexic. See, I just said the word, I can.
Anyway, just
Okay, who would like to read the statement?
Oh, let's let Chuck, because he's got his little book of rules.
well,
You know
this has
he'll
nothing
read
to
it.
do with that.
You know he'll read it properly.
Okay, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22, subparagraph G, subparagraph 1, the board adjourns to executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment or compensation of an employee of the school district.
Check the top.
We have to vote on this, right?
Yeah,
That's a
motion.
motion.
We need a motion?
So moved.
Oh, that's the motion.
That's the motion.
Second.
Second.
Second.